All right, we're about to dive into a really fascinating legal concept, one where your family isn't just your family, it's also a company. It's a structure that's rooted in ancient traditions, but still governs the finances and property of millions of people in India today. So let's get right into it. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you were born with automatic shares in your family's assets? No paperwork, no complicated buy-in, you're just in from day one. It might sound like something out of a movie, but for millions, this is the reality of what's known as the Hindu joint family. Now, to really wrap our heads around this, we have to understand how family, property, and the law are all tangled up together in this really unique way. So, at its core, the joint Hindu family, you'll see it called the JHF, is this special kind of legal entity. The big idea is that your bloodline automatically gives you a legal stake in the family's property. It's not about mine or yours, it's all about what's ours, collectively. Okay, so the first and most obvious question is, who qualifies? Who's actually in this club? Well, the answer is pretty specific, but it's also surprisingly broad. The law basically defines it like this. It's everyone who can trace their family line straight back to a common male ancestor. And this doesn't just mean the men. It also includes their wives and any of their daughters who haven't gotten married yet. So you can see how this group can get really, really big. So how do you get your membership card? Well, there are three main ways. The most common one is just by being born into the family. Simple enough. The second is through marriage, for a woman who joins her husband's family. And the third way is through legal adoption. Pretty clear-cut paths to get in. But here's the catch, and it's a huge one. Just because you're in the club, that doesn't mean you have any real power. Sure, you have certain rights, like the right to be supported financially and live in the family home, but when it comes to making the big decisions about the property, that's reserved for a much smaller, way more powerful group inside the family. And this brings us to probably the most critical concept to understand, the coparcenary. You can think of them as the inner circle, kind of like the board of directors for this whole family business. See, a coparcener isn't just a member, they're an actual co-owner, right from the moment they're born. They have a direct, real stake in the family property. And this is key. They have the legal right to walk in at any time and say, I want my share, and force a division of all the family's assets. That's a massive power. So let's break this down because it's so important. On one side, you've got your regular JHF members, the big extended family. They get support, a place to live. But on the other side, you've got the coparceners. They are the owners. They have the actual stake. And check this out. You can't marry your way into becoming a coparcener. It's a right you're either born with or adopted into. This difference is everything when it comes to understanding how power and money work in this system. Okay, take a look at this family tree. It makes this whole thing so much clearer. Every single person you see here is a member of the joint Hindu family. But historically, the coparceners, the ones with the real ownership rights, were only the men in that direct line. So the system follows what's called a four-generation rule. Basically, it includes the last person who held the property. We'll call him A, plus the next three generations down. So in this picture, A, B, C, and D are all coparceners. Now CE down at the bottom, he's in the family for sure, but he has to wait his turn. He only gets to join that inner circle once A is gone. It's this constantly shifting group of owners. So if the coparceners are the board of directors, who's the CEO? Well, that role is called the Karta. He's the manager of the entire joint family estate. And the rules for who gets to be the Karta are pretty straightforward. The default is that the most senior male member of the family is in charge. He runs the whole show. But if every single person on that board of directors, all the coparceners, agree, they can choose to appoint a younger male member to take the reins instead. And this is where you really see the old legal framework in action. Because a woman, even the widow of the most senior guy in the family, could not be a coparcener. She was automatically blocked from ever becoming the Karta. Just think about that. She couldn't manage the very property that her entire life depended on. And this sets us up for a huge legal shift. Because, laws aren't set in stone. They evolve. And after decades of debate, this system went through a landmark change that completely redefined the rights of millions of women all across India. For centuries, the core idea was brutally simple. The right to own family property, to be a coparcener, was a boys' club. End of story. A daughter was, of course, part of her father's family, but she didn't have any ownership. And when she got married, she joined her husband's family, but again, with no ownership rights of her own. And this timeline just shows you what a seismic shift happened. Before 2005, if a male coparcener passed away, his share of the property was just soaked up by the other men in the family. His daughters, they got nothing. It created this massive cycle of economic dependence. But then came 2005, and boom, the law was amended, and the old system was turned completely on its head. Suddenly, daughters were declared coparceners by birth with the exact same rights and the exact same responsibilities as their brothers.
So if there's one year you take away from all of this, make it 2005. It is the single most important reform in modern Hindu property law, and it marks this huge leap forward towards gender equality.
All right, so let's just do a quick rundown of the big takeaways here. The JHAF is this unique mix of family and finance. Within that family, the coparceners are the real stakeholders. The Karta is the manager who runs the day-to-day, and most importantly, that 2005 amendment was an absolute game changer, finally making daughters equal owners by birth. And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future, right? As the modern family keeps changing and redefining itself, how are these ancient laws going to continue to adapt? One thing's for sure, the evolution is far from over.